Okay, let's dive right into an explainer that is absolutely thrilling if you're a serious wine collector. We are heading straight to the extreme northeastern tip of Sicily to uncover what is literally a hidden viticultural treasure. Now, for decades, the wine world has been totally obsessed with the volcanic slopes of Etna or the sheer power of Nero d'Avola. But right now, true onophiles are shifting their gaze to a grape that is completely redefining southern Italian elegance. This is a grape strictly reserved for those who truly understand the art of cellaring. Today, we're unlocking its secrets.
To really grasp the gravity of this grape, we have to start with a question that takes us back a couple millennia. What was the absolute favorite wine of Julius Caesar? Seriously, the legendary wine of the Caesars, the stuff specifically chosen by the dictator to celebrate his biggest triumphs and poured at the most exclusive imperial banquets, was fueled by a grape that, incredibly, almost vanished from the face of the earth.
That imperial favorite was known as Mamertino, and honestly, this perfectly illustrates how ancient historians revered this wine way before modern wine collecting was even a thing. I mean, Pliny the Elder in his massive encyclopedia Naturalis Historia explicitly called Mamertino prima nota, top quality. So what made it so special back then? Its robust structure was just off the charts, meaning it could easily survive those long, grueling sea voyages across the Mediterranean. And the structural backbone of that ancient legend?
That backbone was Nocera. Today, it's often called the black gold of Messina. Nocera is this aristocratic, incredibly thick-skinned grape. For the longest time, it got pushed to the sidelines, basically just used as a blending grape to inject some color into weaker wines. But not anymore. It is making a massive, highly exclusive comeback for serious collectors who recognize just how profound and, well, paradoxical this grape really is.
The history of Nocera is wildly dramatic. We're talking roots that trace all the way back to the 8th century BC, during the Greek colonization of Sicily. It hit its peak fame in the 3rd century BC as the star of Mamertino. But then, disaster struck. The late 19th century brought the phylloxera plague, which totally decimated European vineyards and pushed Nocera right to the brink of extinction. It only survived in a few isolated mixed vineyards. It actually wasn't until the 21st century that some truly visionary producers stepped in, using intense ampelographic research to rescue the best remaining clones and stage this modern elite revival.
So let's get into Section 1, Terroir of the Messina Strait, Cultivating the Paradox.
To really understand why Nocera is such a collector's dream, we have to look at its extreme geography, something called the Messina effect. Nocera thrives in a climate that is a complete paradox for southern Italy. The soils here are this unique mix of clay and limestone. The clay acts like a giant thermal and hydration sponge. It holds on to crucial moisture so the vines don't just shut down during the blistering summer heat, that dreaded blocked ripening. Meanwhile, the limestone acts as an architect of freshness. It preserves a super low pH, giving the grape this electric acidity. Ultimately, this extreme geodiversity acts as a natural brake on the vine's wild vigor, stopping the grapes from just collapsing into those jammy, heavy profiles you usually get in hot climates.
And then you have the wind. The Strait of Messina is essentially a massive wind funnel. These constant maritime winds, the Pelorian winds, do two huge things. First, they keep the vines incredibly healthy by blowing away moisture and stopping fungal diseases dead in their tracks. But more importantly, they literally coat the grapes in a fine spray of sea salt microparticles. This gives the final wine a deeply savory, saline mouthfeel. It is an unmistakable, highly collectible sapidity that you just cannot replicate inland. No way.
All right, moving on to Section 2, Taming the Wild Vine, the winemaker's dilemma.
See, growing Nocera is only half the battle. The real make-or-break moment is the harvest window. Finding that exact sweet spot where phenolic ripeness, the maturing of the skins and seeds, perfectly aligns with the acidity is an absolute art form. It's a massive, high-stakes gamble. If a winemaker harvests early, sure, they preserve that electric, vibrating acidity, but they run a huge risk of extracting green, harsh, angular tannins from Nocera's crazy thick skin. On the flip side, if they hold out for a late harvest to build power, deepen the color, and soften those tannins, they risk losing that vital acidity entirely. And that just leaves you with a flat, heavy wine.
Once the grapes are perfectly harvested, the cellar work is all about taming this wild power. It generally comes down to 3 absolutely vital steps. First up is cold maceration. By soaking the grapes at low temperatures, they gently coax out that impenetrable color and fine aroma without pulling out the harsh, bitter tannins. Second is the use of large, neutral oak vats, often called tinos. Nocera actually hates new, small oak. It needs slow micro-oxygenation to polymerize its massive tannins without covering up its pure fruit profile. And finally, malolactic fermentation. This step is essential to soften its aggressively high natural acidity into a richer, much creamier texture.
Which brings us to Section 3, Anatomy of a Rare Jewel, Nocera in the glass.
Let's translate all that rigorous winemaking into what you actually see in the glass. Visually, Nocera is just opulent. When you pour it, you're immediately struck by an impenetrable deep ruby core. I mean, it is practically opaque because of a massive concentration of anthocyanins, those natural color compounds. But check out the rim. It holds this vibrant violet edge, which is your direct visual cue of the high natural acidity, keeping all that color stable. Give the glass a swirl, and you'll see these slow, thick tears. That reveals the wine's huge structure, its high-dry extract, and substantial alcohol. Over a few decades, this is going to evolve gracefully into a stunning, warm, brick garnet hue.
Now on the nose, it is a complex expedition. The primary notes hit you right away with crisp sour cherry, wild blackberry, and really deep plum. But then, here comes the terroir, the Mediterranean maquis. You'll distinctly smell the wild herbs of the Sicilian coast, rosemary, myrtle, thyme, and sage. Layered underneath all of that is Nocera's unique mineral signature. Think profound, ferrous, almost blood-like iron notes and wet stone. And, if you've been patient enough to cellar it for a while, those tertiary notes of fine leather, tobacco, and sweet spices just begin to unfold beautifully.
And on the palate, it is all about dynamic tension. You are immediately hit with this electric, vibrating acidity. That is the engine that drives its multi-decade longevity. This acidity slices right through the high-quality, suede-like tannins that, let's be honest, absolutely demand cellaring to truly appreciate. It has a full-bodied, heavy weight in the mouth, but it never feels tiring because that acidity provides just perfect balance. And it all wraps up with an unending, incredibly savory, saline finish that practically forces you to take another sip.
Section 4. Blends and Pure Expressions. The Architecture of Faro Dock.
So how are elite collectors actually getting their hands on Nocera today? Well, in the legendary, super low production Faro DOC blend, it plays a vital starring role. About 60% of that blend is Nerello Mascalese, which gives it finesse and volcanic smoke. Another 30% is Nerello Cappuccio, bringing those beautiful floral aromatics. But that crucial remaining 10%, that's Nocera. It acts as the vital structural anchor. Without Nocera providing that deep color and piercing acidic backbone, Faro DOC just wouldn't have its legendary capacity to age for decades. Nocera is literally the skeleton holding the whole wine together.
But here is the ultimate collector's challenge, tracking down a 100% pure Nocera varietal. Winemakers actually describe pure Nocera as punk elegant. In its youth, it is brutal, rustic, and unforgivingly tannic. That's the punk side of it. It demands hours of decanting. But if you have the patience to celerate, that aggression melts away into a profound, terroir-driven sophistication. It becomes this unmasked, naked expression of Messina's extreme coastal terroir.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, the collector's hit list, hunting the hidden gem.
Now, for those of you ready to add this to your cellar, listen closely. Nocera is not a standalone sipping wine. It is an elite gastronomic tool. Its high acidity and massive tannins absolutely demand rich, fatty, protein-heavy foods to unlock their full potential. You've got to pair it with a traditional, opulent Sicilian Pasta Ncasciata. The wine's acidity acts like a knife, cutting straight through the rich ragu and fried eggplant. Or try it with grilled castrato, where the charred lamb protein chemically binds to and softens those austere tannins. Another great option? Serve it alongside an aged Pecorino Siciliano. The dense cheese protein acts like a sponge, completely smoothing out the palate.
If you're ready to start hunting for benchmark Nocera, you need to look for these elite producers. Planeta crafts a stunning 100% varietal, straight from the Capo Milazzo Peninsula. Casamonte's Pelorian Rosso is an absolute masterclass in the historic blend. Tenuta Enzela Fauci produces Obli, a Faro DOC that is a pure meditation wine made for the cellar. Cambria offers the Nocera Mestronicola, a deeply studied, powerful, pure expression. And finally, Gaglioli Vignoli's Flora provides a beautiful, slightly more immediate look at the grape's maritime freshness.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Nocera is the exact antithesis of the mass-produced, globally standardized wine market. It's demanding, it's powerful, and it is unapologetically true to its ancient Sicilian roots. The real reward of this forgotten jewel isn't instant gratification. So the ultimate question for you, the dedicated collector, is this. Are you patient enough to hunt down this hidden gem, lock it away in your cellar, and wait decades for the punk to become truly elegant? Because if you are, You are in for one of the greatest tasting experiences the Mediterranean has to offer.